Hello and welcome to the Inspiring Life School podcast. This is your host, Frances Vidakovic, and on this podcast, I'll be sharing with you the most valuable strategies to live your one wildly beautiful and most precious life. Because this is it, my friend. In case you haven't guessed, when it comes to life, there's no rewind or pause button that exists. They say that the way that you spend your days is the way that you spend your life. So my one and only goal here is to help you stop wasting your time, stop holding yourself back in life, stop experiencing non-stop negative mind chatter, stop just dreaming without doing, and start living life fearlessly instead, with more purpose, focus, and intention. I sincerely want you to live life in a way that when you come to the end of it, you know deep down in your heart that you 100% gave it your all, flaws and all. This podcast is not about doing life perfectly. Instead, it is about experiencing and living life with more clarity and courage and truly appreciating this precious adventure that we are so blessed to be on. So if you're with me here today, it's time to stop spinning in circles, get off the hamster wheel for good, put your hands back on the steering wheel of your life, and finally start living life in a way that you won't later regret. With that being said, let's dive on in. Hello, my friends. This is Frances Vidakovic, and you are listening to the Inspiring Life School podcast. And in today's episode, I want to speak about how you are potentially making your life a little bit harder than necessary. Now, I want to preface this by saying, of course, this idea of something being really, really hard is just an idea. It's a thought that you think in your own brain. So what you consider to be really hard could be considered to be really easy by others, and what they consider to be hard, you could consider easy. But for the purposes of this episode, I want to speak about, the challenges and struggles, the things that, really do pop up in your life that make you feel, yes, and make you think, yes, that life is a little bit hard at the moment. So I want to ask you a question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult and how hard would you say that your life is right now? Just take a moment to think about what the answer would be. And once you have that answer, I just want you to recognize that sometimes we go through different seasons in life, the ups and downs, the highs and lows. This is all totally normal as a human being. But if you feel as if your life is in the hard, I'm using inverted commas here, if it currently feels really hard, I just want to offer you a few things that you can potentially look at and explore to see whether this is the reason. This is a reason why, yes, I'm thinking my life feels so much harder at the moment. So, number one, I want you to ask yourself a question. Do you have any goals that you are currently working on? Now, what I've often found to be true is that when you don't have any goals that you're focused on, it is really easy. It's super easy to just waste your time and feel as if you're drifting in life. And then, of course, life feels so hard because you don't have anything that's actually setting your heart on fire. So that's the first thing I want you to look at. Does life feel hard because you currently don't have any goals that excite you? And if so, the solution is to simply set some goals. Set some goals that are really meaningful to you and that give your day purpose. Okay, now for the second thing that I want you to consider when it comes to are you making your life harder than necessary? And I know I alluded it in the first strategy, but the question that you need to answer is, do you waste your time each day? Okay, and be really honest here, because there's a good chance that the more time you are wasting, the more chaotic and difficult that your life will feel, because you're most likely not taking care of your priorities, the things that are important to you. And you've heard me mention the ramifications of wasting time every day, just wasting 15 minutes a day on something over the course of a year equals 91.25 hours or almost 4 full days. And if you were to up it to just even half an hour, half an hour of wasted time every day, that's over a week, over the course of a year. So the solution to this, which you probably want to know, is number one, identify what are you actually wasting your time on each day, and then do your best to eliminate it. Okay, that's going to make your life so much easier. Which brings me to the third question I want to ask you is, do you procrastinate? Now, this is actually just another way of wasting time, but many of us don't notice it if we're keeping busy. So you might be doing things that aren't wasting your time. You feel like you're being really productive, but what you are really doing is putting off the important things that need to be done. Or sometimes you just do a poor job because you are too rushed. So definitely, if you are procrastinating on the important things that need to be done, you are creating unnecessary drama in your life. So you could ask yourself this question, why do you keep on putting off? Is it because you don't know where to start? Is it because you're too scared? Really dig in deep. I always feel like having awareness of why a problem might exist is the first step to a solution, because you can't fix something. You can't fix something that you're not aware of. So obviously the solution to this is to stop delaying the activity and do what needs to be done. And I'm guessing how you could see that this would, of course, make your life a little bit easier. Which brings me to the next question that I want to ask you, and it often contributes to a life that feels harder. Do you think too much and do too little? Okay, there are a lot of people out there in the world, and myself included sometimes, is that you overthink. You spend way too much time thinking, oh my gosh, should I do this? Should I do that? Rather than just making a decision and simply refusing to participate in the mind drama. It's almost like you have to say to yourself, this ends right now. Okay, no more overthinking and more doing. And the solution really is having faith in yourself, trusting the universe, making a decision and sticking with it, and understanding and knowing that overthinking will never make things better. Okay, it really doesn't. Which takes me to the next question I want to ask you. Do you fail to learn from your mistakes? Okay, because as you can probably see, if you keep on making the same mistakes over and over and over and over again, of course, your life is going to be harder and feel harder than necessary. And really, the solution to this problem is just to actually acknowledge the fact that, yes, I made a mistake. I'm not perfect, but this is something that I can learn from. This is something I can grow from. Look for the gem inside every mistake rather than pretending the mistakes didn't happen when they did. There is always, always, always a lesson to be learned. Which brings me to the next question that I want to ask you, just to help you determine whether you're making your life harder than necessary. And the question is this, do you worry about things that you have no control over? Now, if you're a perfectly normal human being, I think that we're all going to be putting our hand up just a little bit here. Of course, we do sometimes worry, but what does that worry accomplish? Do you actually gain anything from spending that time ruminating on all the things that could go wrong? And what would it be like if you actually spent that time focused on a solution or something more relevant? And how does worrying impact your life? Okay. I think that we've all heard that saying before. It doesn't take away tomorrow's troubles. It just robs you of today's peace. And as a former worrywart, I just want to share with you the thing that's worked best for me in terms of really minimizing the amount of worry that I experience in my life is, number one, knowing that as much time you spend thinking about the worst case scenario, you definitely need to spend just as much time focused on the best case scenario, if not more. Know that they're both possibilities and remind yourself that everything is going to be okay. Things have a way of working out in life. Now, of course, good things and bad things happen in life, but I honestly have never found any benefit to worrying about the things that I cannot control. What is the point of that? I just want you to know that it's possible to choose peace instead. Of course, this takes lots of intentional effort and lots of practice, but there isn't enough room in your mind for both worry and faith at the same time. So choose one. Which one do you want to go with? Worry or faith? I always say go with faith. And it's like that quote by Abraham Hicks who said, worrying is using your imagination to create something that you don't want, which is why it's so important to focus on what you do want to create. Which brings me to the next question that I want you to ask yourself when it comes to analyzing, am I making my life harder than it needs to be? The question is, do you fail to build good habits? Okay. More specifically, I want you to focus on the negative habits that are potentially holding you back. Okay. Can you think of any? Now, obviously, when you have negative or ineffective habits, it's going to create more challenge in your life. So I want you to think about what new positive habits do you want to begin to incorporate into your life instead? What negative habits do you need to let go of? Now, we could talk in depth about habits, but just the acknowledgement here that, oh my gosh, those negative habits, that's the reason why my life feels so much harder. Just having that little light bulb moment here today with me, is the first stepping stone to making changes happen. So start by identifying any negative habits that might be holding you back, and then identify the new ones that you want to incorporate and build into your life instead, because what we do every day matters more than what we do once in a while. And you might want to start by just taking Wayne Dwyer's suggestion. He says, to leave all habits behind, start by thinking this thought: I release the need for this in my life. I release the need for this negative habit. And I think it was Robert Puller who said, good habits once established are just as hard to break as bad habits are. So that's why it's worth your time investing, establishing good habits and letting go of the bad ones. Now, the next question I want you to ask yourself to help you determine if you're making your life harder than necessary is, do you fail to plan how you spend your time? So as you can probably imagine, if you wake up each day and you have zero idea what your plan is for the day, and you're just going to do whatever happens and go with the wind, go with the flow, you will often find that the wind and the flow isn't taking you and helping you complete the things that need to be done. So the solution to this is actually make a plan. The night before, pull out your diary, or start to even just in your brain decide, okay, this is how I'm planning to spend the following day. Making sure that you're taking care of the things that are really important to be done. When you implement this strategy, it definitely is going to make your life feel a little bit easier and less hard. hard. Now for the next question. How much time do you spend with negative people or people who drag you down? Obviously, if your answer is, oh my gosh, like way too much time, you can probably see how this is connected to your life feeling a little bit harder. And my suggestion to you is just to simplify your life by clearing out toxic friends, toxic habits that just bring you down, because your life is definitely going to improve exponentially when you improve the quality of people in your life. Because when you're spending time with people who are dragging you down, then of course, like you're going to have to spend more time trying to lift yourself back up again. And if you're wondering, well, what constitutes a negative person that I should consider spending less time with? Well, it's those who are constantly spreading negativity, those who criticize you all the time, those who are jealous or petty, those who play the victim, those who are self-centered, maybe selfish, those who sincerely don't care about you, and those who are constantly letting you down and disappointing you, and those who waste your time. And only you know who falls into this bracket. Now for the final question that I want to ask you, just to help you determine, okay, are you making your life harder than necessary, is this. Do you compare yourself to others? And I think the implication here is, do you compare yourself negative to others? Now, that is a really quick way to making yourself feel really crap and making your life feel harder than what it needs to be if you're playing this comparison game. So the solution here is obviously to let go of those comparisons, realize that you're one of a kind, you're unique. And if you have to compare yourself to anyone, like compare yourself to who you were yesterday, like so that you're constantly trying to improve yourself without setting anyone else as a benchmark. The benchmark is you. And even if you have to consciously tell yourself, I refuse to compare myself to others anymore, I no longer compare myself to others anymore, do that. Okay, do that because it's going to make your life feel so much easier. So in a nutshell, I've shared with you like 10 different questions that you can ask yourself to help you identify if there's any areas that you can focus on improving, because at the moment, okay, what you're currently doing is making life feel harder than necessary. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to like tick all 10 boxes and it's like, oh my gosh, okay, now I have a super easy life. It doesn't mean that your challenges will all go away. It just means that you're going to be better equipped to face all the obstacles and challenges that will still continue to come your way without feeling as if you've made it even harder for yourself. And I want to end this episode with a quote by Zero Dean, and I've slightly adapted it to say, life can be hard and life can be unfair, and sometimes it really hurts like hell. But if you focus on what is within your power to change for the better, so within your power, you can and you will. And that is it, my friend, for today's episode. As always, I love and appreciate you all so much. Take care, and I will catch you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Inspiring Life School podcast. I really appreciate you allowing me to be a part of your life. If you'd love to stay in touch, please know that you can always find me on Instagram at Frances Vidakovic, or you can visit my website, inspiringmumlife.com, where you can sign up and receive so many amazing freebies that I've created just for you to help you implement all my teachings into practice. There you'll also find all my online courses, resources and programs that I've created to help you up-level your life in seriously the simplest way possible, so that you can ultimately create for yourself a life that feels simpler, lighter, and allows you to show up in a way that you love as your best and most authentic version of yourself. Now remember, this podcast is all about not just dreaming but also doing, because to create true sustainable change in your life, you need to be willing to do things differently. And that's what I'm here to support you to do every single step along the way, so that you too can begin to live your one wild and precious life with less stress, less overwhelm, less drama, and instead with zero regrets. Finally, if this podcast resonates with you at all and you appreciate the content, I would absolutely love for you to show your support by leaving me a review on Apple Podcasts. I'm on a mission to help more people wake up to the preciousness of life and to help them live their days with more intention and purpose, and your review will help make this goal of mine possible. Well, once again, thank you so much. I have loved spending this time with you, and I look forward to connecting with you again. I'm Frances Vidakovic, and you have been listening to the Inspiring Life School podcast.